because the Chinese are reacting to the tariffs, all right? And they are a little bit pissed off about what's going on. And so while you see all of these people actually getting upset at the fact that Trump is doing the things that's in the best interest of Americans, let's now see what the Chinese are going to do and what our reaction is to it. I like to use other platforms. I don't want to just go with Fox News. I don't want to go with C-SPAN's Nancy Pelosi. I don't want to go with the local news. Let's see what they're saying on the liberal side, on the CNN side.
Look out below. Take a look at U.S. stock futures. All markets on edge and dropping. These futures just took a notable turn downward again on the heels of the worst day Wall Street has seen in 5 years. Now, right now, futures aren't quite as bad as yesterday, almost as bad, but they're still not looking good at all. And they just dropped more on the news that China is striking back. Retaliatory tariffs, big ones.
Let's dig more into the breaking news that John was talking about at the top. China is now hitting back, retaliating against the Trump tariffs, announcing this morning it is now slapping a reciprocal 34% tariff on all U.S. goods. With stock futures, I mean, this is not looking good.
We literally could have crushed China back in the 90s. We could have crushed them. We wouldn't even be having this conversation. They would be eating out of the palm of our hands, and they wouldn't even be talking about BRICS or being a world power or their currency manipulation or any of that type of stuff. They wouldn't even have the capacity to even have this conversation with us. We wouldn't even have them buying up Africa if we had crushed them in the 90s. The United States of American Democrats back in the 90s basically gave China the power to take over Africa today. Ain't that crazy when you start to look at it in hindsight? Because we don't go back enough far in history to be able to have these conversations. We wouldn't even be having a conversation about China in the first place had we not subsidized the economy and basically gave them all of the power to do what they want to do right now. And somebody got rich off of it. A bunch of Democrats got rich off of it. Crazy, ain't it?
The next piece of data that investors and beyond are also going to be looking at this morning is the March jobs report. It comes out next hour. To date, the labor data has painted a picture of a jobs market that's cooling but not contracting. Is that all about to change? CNN's Matt Egan is here. Let's start with this breaking news, though, which is China now says 34%.
Yeah, look, that is why we're seeing more mayhem in financial markets around the world. Markets are going boom, but they're going boom down. Look at this. Dow futures off by almost 3%. This signals another 1,200-point loss at the opening bell. That's on top of yesterday's 1,700-point loss. Steeper losses for the NASDAQ futures down 3%. So what happened was futures were down a bit, and then China retaliated. They came back and they say they're putting a 34% tariff on goods that are made in the United States. It's not shocking to see China fire back.
Right.
But this is an escalation that investors, of course, did not want to see because retaliation, it can kill jobs here in the United States. It can slow economic growth, and it could just fan more retaliation. You could get into this escalatory cycle that is almost impossible to get out of. One other big development that happened last night is JP Morgan came out with a new recession warning. They previously said that they thought there's a 40% chance of a recession in the US and in the world economy. They've just upped that to 60%, citing specifically the tariffs. And of course, this is one of the reasons why we've seen markets take such a hit in recent days, but another recession warning here.
And how bad was yesterday?
Yeah, it was so bad that some people on Wall Street have said instead of calling it Liberation Day, they're calling it Obliteration Day. It was the worst day for U.S. stocks since COVID. We saw the S&P 500 close at a 7-month low. We saw oil prices fall very sharply. Tech stocks get clobbered up.
I think that the market correction during the pandemic was probably one of the biggest opportunities that I've capitalized off of. I would say it was the second biggest market opportunity that I've ever experienced in my entire life. And that's when I was telling you guys to eventually get out of Peloton because they was going to collapse. I had warned y'all about Zillow. That had happened. And it was a lot of other opportunities that we really, really capitalized off of and took advantage of. But that was probably the second biggest opportunity that I've capitalized off of as far as the market is concerned in my entire life. 100%. But let's continue.
Bond yields went down because investors piled into the safety of ultra-safe government debt. One of the only things that went up on the day was fear. We saw the VIX volatility index go straight up. One of the stocks that got hit the hardest was Apple. Apple's really kind of at the epicenter here, right? It's the world's most valuable company. Yesterday, it lost $310 billion.
I'm going to speak on every last one of these companies. There are some companies that I think is really going to come out of this, and they are going to explode. I do not want to mention it on the Millionaire Morning Show. It's funny, I was reading the comments on the Darth Anton channel from the vlog that I dropped yesterday, and somebody was complaining, and they said, how come you don't give us all of the information that you talk about on the Patreon to us right here? We deserve it too. And I started to type a comment back to say, suck my, but I'm not willing to do that. I'm not giving out any Patreon information. I'm going to break down the markets. I'm going to break down the stocks. I'm going to break down the charts. I'm going to give y'all everything that I'm doing personally. I'm not going to tell y'all what to do, but I'm going to tell you what I'm doing in order to continue to capitalize off of it. The same way that we capitalized right before the pandemic or during the pandemic, the same way that we capitalized a little bit after the 2008 housing correction. We're going to do the same thing here today, okay?
$1 billion, worst day since 2020 for Apple, and that's because they make a lot of their stuff, their iPhones and other items, they make it all overseas, and those products are now facing steep tariffs. And again, now you have China retaliating.
U.S. stock futures turning sharply downward, and they keep getting worse, I have to say. This on the heels of the news released just a short time ago that China is imposing 34%.
Give me a second. I'm going to share it now because I want to share it from both platforms. And tell you exactly what Fox News perspective was on the whole situation. I actually need to switch. So we got to have that YouTube premium. We're not going to be doing it. Let me share this really quickly, and then we're going to deep dive into it. And then make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned.
Right now, the Dow future is down sharply as global markets take a big hit in response to President Trump's tariffs announcements. And just
somebody said the
China
damn
announced plans to implement
panic. Fear and panic is really profitable. Fear and panic is some of the most profitable things that you can then use to come up and be successful.
34% retaliatory, thank you, tariffs on U.S. goods starting April 10th.
So senior White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich is watching all this. She's a little seasick, and she joins us now. Jackie, tell us the latest. And you have your own landscaper issues, it sounds like.
I do. I do. Brian, this market reaction was a shock to everyone, really, except for President Trump, who likened it to a scheduled medical procedure to treat a sick patient.
I think it's going very well. It was an operation, like when a patient gets operated on, and it's a big thing. I said this would exactly be the way it is. We have $6 or $7 trillion coming into our country, and we've never seen anything like it. The markets are going to boom. The stock is going to boom. The country is going to boom.
And his administration is echoing that line, even as the impacts keep coming. This morning, China announcing retaliatory tariffs of 34% effective April 10th. That, by the way, is exactly the kind of countermeasure that Treasury Secretary said would prompt escalation from the U.S., repeatedly warning against it. The president's aides maintain the strategy will work and the fallout will be short, despite recession warnings from some economists.
This will be a short time of uncertainty, and then we'll move back to the prosperity that this president has envisioned, that he is so bold and so willing to fight for. And I couldn't be more proud and stand next to him. The new golden age of prosperity will move in.
Now, there are some signs that the president's prescription might work. General Motors announcing plans to boost production of light-duty trucks in the U.S., announcing that it is hiring several hundred temporary workers as the auto industry also grapples with sector-specific tariffs.
Renaissance of American manufacturing coming because Donald Trump is bringing them back. He's driving them back. $6 trillion, he said today, he's got committed to America. It's unbelievable.
There's a lot of companies that are now racing to build plants, infrastructure, and factories and jobs here in the United States of America to avoid tariffs. They are racing. I will tell you this. Did you know, a lot of people don't even know this, but we don't build American cars here out. Ford, Chrysler, well, we call it Stellantis, but we call it Chrysler in Detroit. Did you know we got rid of everything? We don't make, and they basically got rid of, Chrysler was the last person to really do it as far as getting rid of the Challenger and the Charger, and that's why they phased that out. And then they gave us that piece of shit. Sorry, this is Friday, so I'm cursing a little bit. They gave us that piece of shit new Charger that they got coming out that's all electric. But Ford basically opted out of building any more American cars, and that's when you're seeing the getting rid of the Taurus. They had got rid of the Fiesta. They got rid of the Focus. They got rid of all of those cars, and they no longer sold or made those cars inside of the United States of America. General Motors got rid of making all of those cars inside of the United States of America. They moved all of those cars down to Mexico. They moved all of those vehicles down to Mexico.
And other countries are also responding. Mexico and Canada both hastening negotiations with the U.S. toward a new USMCA trade deal. Eric Trump posting to X, I wouldn't want to be the last country that tries to negotiate a trade deal with Donald Trump. The first to negotiate will win. The last will absolutely lose. I've seen this movie my entire life. Meantime, Democrats are sounding off about the inflationary impacts of this plan in the House, planning to force a vote to try to kill the tariffs entirely, guys.
All right. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Jackie.
All right.
Brian?
So this just came across, guys. So China officially has retaliated. You know, when you put the fentanyl penalty along with the tariffs issued yesterday, we have tariffed China over 50%. They have just responded. They don't want to be bullied, air quotes. They with a 34% tariffs. They also listed 11 American companies of so-called unreliable entities. And they're going to halt chicken imports too. Listen, we get a lot more from them than they get from us. Yeah, and drone companies, which a lot of it's going to hurt the defense industry too, because a lot of the parts that we use, sadly and astoundingly, that our Pentagon uses are from parts and materials that we get from China. So this is a big wake-up call. The other big story is pharmaceuticals are going to be targeted as early as today. Why? Remember, we don't make any drugs here, but yet we use them all. So how do you bring manufacturing back? Well, if you're in Ireland, there's no reason to come here. It's at 0%. But now we're going to start bringing them back as tariffs hit. Lastly, about China, it looks like we're going to tariff third parties that buy Venezuelan oil. Guess who buys Venezuelan oil? China. So they could be hit in the oil pocket too.
Well, Brian, I think the statement that they produce and they're being bullied is comical. They steal products. They use slave labor. They spy on everything that we do, especially if you're a company there, you got to turn over all your data to them as well. And they use that to build up. They're funding some of my
a lot of times people have no idea what they're talking about. Real talk. When I say that they've been stealing our proprietary technology, and I've said that over and over again, when you do business in China, you have to give them all of your secrets so that they can then build it faster and cheaper, and then they run you out of the market. It's crazy. We never, ever, ever should have been dependent on another country for our infrastructure, for our goddamn military. What is wrong with us? Boy, but did we ever just mess up prior to Trump? Just sold this whole country short. Sold everything short. Sold everything out. Want the cheapest products ever. Ever. They have stolen we have made everybody rich. And now we got to put it into it. We got to put it into it.